You are not broken. You're just silent. And in this silence, something begins. Maybe tonight, for the first time, you'll realize the crisis you're facing isn't the end. It's the beginning of your second life. If you're over 30 and feel lost, like you're running out of time, this video was made for you. Welcome to Silent Pivot. This is your signal. A gentle frequency for those who don't need to scream to change. We're not here for noise. We're here to shift, quietly. So breathe. Let your thoughts slow down. And if this message finds you, subscribe. Leave it playing as you drift into thought. And let this be your turning point. You turned 30. And something shifted. Not in the world, but inside. You stopped pretending that everything was okay. You stopped laughing at the wrong jokes. You stopped answering messages just to be polite. And slowly the silence began to feel safer than the noise. They said 30 would be stability, but nobody warned you about the quiet despair. The invisible question, is this it? You have a job, maybe a partner, maybe a place to live. But why does everything still feel temporary? You scroll through your phone, seeing people who figured it out in their 20s. And you wonder if you missed something. A train you should have boarded. A version of yourself that's now too far to catch. But what if I told you? You're not late. You're just awake. And that's why it hurts. You're not in a race, but it feels like everyone else is sprinting. Married, with kids, a house, a business, vacations in places you can't even pronounce. And yet, you're here, lying on your back, eyes open at 3:07 a.m., staring at the ceiling like it holds all the answers you never got. You begin to question your own timeline. Was I supposed to have figured it out by now? Shouldn't I be happier? But life isn't a checklist. And this moment of doubt is not a failure. It's a recalibration. You're shedding old expectations. You're unlearning dreams that were never yours to begin with. And that's why it feels so uncomfortable. Because rebirth always requires some kind of death. No one talks about this part. The part where you disconnect to reconnect. Where you lose yourself to find what's true. Where silence becomes louder than applause. The crisis of 30 isn't chaos. It's clarity. You're realizing that climbing the wrong ladder faster doesn't get you to the right place. That success without purpose is just noise in a suit. That validation is not nutrition. And suddenly, you start craving depth. You want to feel things again. You want to care about something real. Maybe that's why you're watching this. Because you're tired of pretending. Tired of numbing. Tired of waiting for a version of yourself that feels alive again. You're not alone. This isn't a motivational speech. This is a quiet awakening, the kind that doesn't need fireworks, just truth. And the truth is, you're allowed to pivot. You're allowed to change direction at 30, at 35, at 40. Because age is not the enemy. Stagnation is. The silent pressure to stay the same, to not disappoint, to keep up appearances. That's the real weight you've been carrying. But tonight, you can put it down. You can exhale. You can say, I don't know yet, but I'm listening. Because the answers don't scream. They whisper. And they only arrive when you're still enough to hear them. Pausa sonora sutil. Como o ruido de uma TV antiga. There's a version of you that doesn't settle, that doesn't shrink to fit in, that doesn't fake smiles at reunions. That version isn't ahead of you, it's waiting inside of you, buried under expectations, doubt, and outdated definitions of success. You don't need to catch up. You need to tune in, not to what others are doing, but to what your soul has been trying to tell you since the moment you turned 30 and everything felt different. Maybe you were never lost. Maybe you were just no longer distracted. The world told you who to be before you ever asked yourself who you are. At 20, you were busy being loud, trying to be seen, trying to be enough, trying to matter. But now at 30, you feel it. The quiet pull inward. The noise no longer excites you. The crowds no longer comfort you. The applause feels hollow. You start to crave solitude not as an escape, but as a reunion. You want to meet the person you've always ignored, yourself. And so one night you unplug. You cancel plans. You don't respond to texts. You sit with the discomfort. You sit with the silence. And in that silence, something stirs. It's not ambition. It's not productivity. It's not hustle. It's presence. Real, raw presence. You begin to notice the way your breath feels. The way your shoulders relax when no one is watching. The way your thoughts slow down when you're not performing. You realize you've been performing for most of your life, not for a stage, but for the world. You wore masks so well you forgot you were wearing them. You said yes so often. Your no started to disappear. You became likable, agreeable, predictable, but not you. And that's where the crisis begins. Not with disaster, but with a question. Who am I when I stop performing? The answers aren't instant. They arrive in whispers, in old journal entries, in quiet mornings, in songs that break your heart for no reason, in walks without destination. You remember what made you feel alive as a child. You remember the dreams you abandoned to be realistic. You remember the parts of yourself that used to shine before the world told you to dim them. You don't need more advice. You need more alignment. Less comparing, more creating, less scrolling, more journaling, less proving, more becoming. And most of all, less noise, more pivoting. Not dramatic changes, not burning everything down, just silent, consistent, soulful pivots. Tiny shifts in direction that align you with truth. Because life isn't about being impressive, it's about being honest. And honesty feels like peace, even if it looks like loneliness from the outside. So if you've been hiding in plain sight, if you've been clapping for others while secretly mourning your own voice, if you've been pretending this version of life is enough, let this be your sign. Not to scream, but to pause, to reset, to reclaim what's quietly dying inside you. The world doesn't need a louder you, it needs a truer you. Maybe you don't need a new plan, maybe you just need a new way of listening. Maybe your breakthrough will come, not with a bang, but with a breath. There comes a point where you stop chasing, not because you've given up, but because you've finally realized that what you were running toward was never truly yours. You slow down, not out of laziness, not out of defeat, but out of wisdom. You begin to notice the subtle difference between movement and meaning. You've been busy. God, you've been so busy. But have you been fulfilled? Every meeting, every call, every reply, every scroll through a life that's not yours, every attempt to stay ahead of a race no one asked you to run. And for what? You start asking better questions. You start deleting apps. You start saying no to people who only remember you when they need something. You stop calling people who leave you drained. And in that space, something shifts. You begin to hear your own voice again. At first, it's faint. But over time, it gets clearer. And it doesn't say go faster. It says go deeper. Because your 30s aren't about speed. They're about substance. You realize that depth costs you something. It costs your superficial connections. It costs your people-pleasing habits. It costs your carefully curated image. But what you gain is weightless. You gain peace. Not the peace that comes from everything going right, but the peace that comes from finally aligning with what's real. You start redefining what success looks like for you. Not for your parents, not for society, not for the highlight reel, but for you. Maybe it's not a six-figure salary. Maybe it's waking up without anxiety. Maybe it's cooking dinner without checking your phone. Maybe it's watching the rain and not feeling guilty for not being productive. That's the magic of your 30s. You start letting go of borrowed definitions. You stop trying to fix things that were never broken, especially yourself. Because you were never broken. You were just busy being someone else. And now, you're coming home. Slowly, quietly, beautifully. To a version of you that doesn't need to prove anything. A version that breathes deeper, that loves slower, that speaks less but means more. So tonight, let the crisis be your compass. Let it point you inward. Let it hurt, if it must. But let it heal. Because on the other side of this silence is a self you haven't met yet. And they're waiting. Not with demands. Not with perfection, but with open arms and a whisper. You made it. You don't need another plan. You need presence. You don't need to figure out the next 5 years. You need to feel this one night, fully. Let the worries pass. Let the comparisons die. Let the shoulds and musts and maybes dissolve. Tonight isn't about solving your life. It's about holding it, gently, like something sacred. And it is. Your life right now matters. Not the future version. Not the one with more money or more followers or a better apartment. This version, the one in pajamas, sitting in the glow of a screen, hoping something here helps you breathe deeper. And if it does, stay. Let it wash over you. Let it cleanse the noise. Let it whisper back everything you forgot. That you are not behind. That you are not failing. That you are allowed to start again. You see, nobody really talks about how common this is. The quiet panic that comes with 30. The subtle grief of unmet expectations. The realization that you've climbed a ladder only to discover it's leaning on the wrong wall. But the beauty of this moment is that you don't have to keep climbing. You can pause. You can breathe. You can step down and choose a different wall, one that was always meant for you. And yes, it will be scary. People will question you. Some will drift away. But the ones who stay, the ones who understand your silence, those are the ones who deserve a seat at your table. Because the older you get, the less you want noise. You want meaning. Not more messages. More presence. Not more content. More connection. Not more things, more truth. And truth can't be shouted. It comes in silence, in reflection, in pivoting when the world expects you to stay still. You're allowed to evolve. You're allowed to become unrecognizable. You're allowed to disappoint others if it means being honest with yourself. The crisis of 30 is not a breakdown. It's a breakthrough. If you're willing to listen, and right now, you are listening, that means you're already healing. Healing doesn't always look like progress. Sometimes it looks like disappearing, turning off your phone, saying no, leaving messages unread, not posting, not explaining. Sometimes it's not a glow-up. It's a shutdown for survival. Because somewhere along the way, you realized you were living for visibility, but starving for vitality. You were being seen, but not understood. You were surrounded, but not supported. So you disappeared, and that's okay. Sometimes the most sacred work happens in the dark, like roots growing underground, like the moon renewing itself, like wounds learning how to close. You're not lazy. You're healing. You're not lost. You're redefining what it means to be found. And in this space, you rediscover things that never left you. You just stopped looking. The love that doesn't demand performance. The peace that doesn't require perfection. The joy that lives in the tiniest details. A morning coffee. A song from your childhood. The way light hits the wall at 4 p.m. These aren't distractions. They're directions, pointing you back to yourself. Because healing isn't always grand. Sometimes it's silent. Sometimes it's slow. Sometimes it's invisible to everyone but you, and that's enough. You don't need to prove your progress. You just need to feel it. If tonight all you do is breathe a little deeper, if all you do is not give up, that is enough. You are enough. Even in the confusion, even in the pause, even in the not knowing, especially in the not knowing, because that's where your real life begins. Not when you figure it all out, but when you finally admit, I don't know yet, but I trust I will. And that trust, that's the pivot. That's the moment the crisis begins to crack open. Not to break you, but to birth something entirely new. And when it does, when the cracks let light in, you begin to see yourself more clearly than ever before. Not the version you thought you had to be, not the version others expected, but the version that feels real, quiet, gentle, true. You stop needing to explain your journey. You stop asking for permission. You stop looking for signs outside of you, because now you're listening within. You realize that growth isn't always about doing more. Sometimes it's about doing less, but with more heart. You stop multitasking your life. You start being present in small things. You begin treating silence as a friend, not a threat. You understand that peace doesn't come when life is perfect. It comes when you stop expecting perfection. It comes when you honor your rhythm, your timing, your truth. And it's in that surrender that you begin to rise again. Not loudly, not suddenly, but slowly, intentionally. You begin to build, not a brand, but a life. A life that makes sense to you. A life that holds you gently. A life that reflects who you've quietly become. And the irony is that the moment you stop performing, people start noticing your presence. Because authenticity is magnetic. It doesn't scream, it resonates. You don't chase anymore, you attract. Not because you're louder, but because you're aligned. And that alignment becomes your compass. It tells you where to go, what to say, what to build, what to let go. You learn that clarity doesn't always come with a plan. Sometimes it comes with stillness, with trust, with the decision to keep walking, even when the path isn't lit. You begin to honor the mystery. You begin to trust the detours. You begin to find meaning, not in answers, but in presence. And as you drift tonight, with this voice in your ears and your thoughts slowly softening, remember, you are not late. You are not lost. You are simply becoming. Becoming isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive with applause. It happens in the quiet, in the private, in the unseen. It happens when you choose yourself even when the world doesn't understand why. It happens when you begin to love parts of yourself you used to hide. When you forgive yourself for not knowing better before. When you realize that growth is messy and that healing isn't linear. You stop needing to be a success story by 30. You stop measuring your worth by timelines. You stop chasing the life you were told to want and begin building the one that feels like home. Maybe that home is slower. Maybe it's smaller. Maybe it's simpler. But it's yours. You make peace with the version of you that tried so hard for so long. You thank them. And you let them rest, because now you're ready to move differently, with intention, with softness, with quiet strength. Not everything has to be a breakthrough. Some days, surviving is enough. Some nights, just breathing is a miracle. This moment, this very breath, it counts. You're not waiting for life to begin. You're realizing it already has. And though it doesn't look like the movies, though it's not glamorous or filtered, it's real. And real will always feel better than perfect. So if you're here, if you're still listening, it means something inside you is still alive, still reaching, still hoping. Don't ignore that. Nurture it, feed it, protect it, because that spark, that whisper in the dark, that is your pivot. That is your silent revolution. One day, you'll look back on this time, the long nights, the restless questions, the invisible work you did in silence, the doubts, the tears. The choosing of yourself again and again, even when you were tired, even when no one noticed. And you'll be grateful. Because this was the chapter where you stopped performing and started becoming, where you laid down the weight of who you should be and opened the door to who you truly are. No more racing, no more comparing, no more proving, just breathing, just being, and it's enough. You are enough. Tonight, let go of the noise, let go of the timeline. Let go of the fear that you're falling behind. You are not behind. You are exactly where you are meant to be, in the middle of your becoming. Let the silence embrace you. Let the stillness speak. Let the slow rhythm of your breath become the only sound that matters. You don't need to fix everything tonight. You don't need to know what comes next. You just need to rest. Let your body soften. Let your thoughts dissolve. Let your soul feel held. This is your space, your moment, your pivot. And from here, a new path will unfold, not all at once, not with clarity, but with trust, one quiet step at a time. You are not broken, you are being rebuilt, stronger, softer, truer. So sleep now, and know that you are not alone. Thousands are pivoting with you in silence, all across the world, choosing peace over pressure, truth over noise, presence over perfection. This is not the end. This is your silent beginning. And if this voice met you at the right time, let it stay with you. Let it echo in your dreams. Let it plant seeds that tomorrow will water. And if your heart whispered yes at any point, subscribe to Silent Pivot. We'll be here, every night, every moment you need stillness, every time the world feels too loud. We speak the language of silence. We grow in the dark, and we rise softly. Until then, good night, breathe, and begin again.